Sometimes the wrong choices lead us to the right path. Sometimes discoveries happen from the ruin. Sometimes peace is born in a divine mess. We need to learn how to trust the chaos of life because it doesn't follow any norms. And this is the reason why I never recommend reading, listening, or following the spiritual content blindly. Each one of you is so brilliantly unique, and that's why one size doesn't fit all, especially in spirituality, in the awakening of your awareness. And one of my deepest intention for all of you is to redefine and revisit all that we have been asked to blindly believe. And this is why this podcast was started. Thank you for the love, the questions, the curiosity that you continue to send my way. This is Break the Norms, and I am Chandresh Bhardwaj. So before we begin, a couple of quick announcements. I have a private talk on tantra happening in Malibu, Los Angeles. So if you live in LA, this is a free talk for everyone, but it's a private event happening in Malibu. All you need to do to sign up is to either send me a DM on Instagram or go to my website cbmeditates.com and write to me, and someone will send you the link to register for the event. And then there's a very powerful, beautiful workshop that Den Meditation in LA is hosting for me. It's about cultivating conscious desires. It's about understanding the laws of manifestation and all the powerful things that the universe continues to build for us and how to really tap into it. I feel that's a workshop which is going to awakening a lot new conversations within you. Okay. And finally, for those of you who have been asking and kind of motivated me to offer this publicly, my one-on-one programs are now open publicly. I'm still going to have a phone call, a discovery call to really understand if you are ready for this and if I'm, really the right person for you. But it's open for spiritual coaches, healers, for individual people who would want to dive deeper into Tantra, or for those of you who have been meditating for years and really want to take your spiritual practice to next level, or if you're looking for a conscious purpose or diving deeper into your relationships. There's a lot more happening in these one-on-one programs. They are intensive, deep. They do require you to do the work. And we do have a lot of discussions, conversations in this process. But if you feel inclined or interested, go to my website, cbmeditates.com, find out about the guidance, or simply write us an email through the website, and someone will reach out to you as soon as possible. And now, talking about the topic of the day, spiritual altars. Now, I've mentioned it many times that my biggest learnings and lessons come from all of you. I generally don't read a lot of spiritual books, not the modern ones. I do tap into the ancient Tantra scriptures and some of the scriptures or the wisdom texts from the ancient gurus if I can get hold to onto them. They're very rare and they're not available on the mainstream websites as well. But yeah, besides that, I don't enjoy the modern spiritual books as much, only because I think what I can learn from all of you is much more powerful. So I pay very close attention to my clients, my students, the people who are commenting on the social media, Instagram, the questions that I'm getting from all of you through podcast, or even the human behavior around me, around the cafes, the streets, in the meditation settings, the same people, how they behave outside the meditation setting, or random places. So I feel my biggest learnings come from all of you. And one thing that I'm noticing, there are two interesting things I'm noticing which kind of motivated me to do this episode today. One of them is the spiritual corruption, the spiritual circus is on its rise. It's expanding and it's painful to watch. The drama, the show of spirituality, it's going into its terrible phase. But whenever that happens, There's also a certain tribe which wants to, wake up and really want to follow the right dharma, the right path. It's like if you have 6 terrible movies in a year, the audience, finally decide that, okay, this is it. We are not going to go to theaters to watch this crap, because if we do, they'll keep making this crap. So when the crowd starts to do it, the producers, the directors, they wake up, they're like, no, we got to make better content, because the audience, they're not accepting the good old formulas. So these are the two things I'm noticing in spirituality. While on the one hand, the circus is expanding. There are new characters, new jokers, and new stuff happening on that circus. But at the same time, there are also new, authentic, genuine teachers and seekers. And more than the teachers, I'm a fan of the seekers, because trust me, it's you guys, the seekers, the students, that really shape the voices of teachers out there. Because if a certain teacher is selling something that's just shallow, wrong, and if you keep on buying it, she or he will keep creating it, right? But when you stop buying it, when you start writing about that this is not what we want, they'll stop creating, they'll have no option. So be very conscious, very mindful of what kind of spirituality are you empowering, because that's what everyone will respond to. And when they don't respond toward that, the popular spirituality, it's a tough call. And I cannot tell you, maybe someday I'll write that in my biography, or I'll create a biopic around my life, and I can, reveal the kind of toughest challenges I went through, simply because I wanted to offer spirituality in my own way. And many times I thought maybe I should not go for it. Maybe I should just stick to the popular, spirituality, because that's what is, being sold and bought. But yeah, even thinking about it used to give me such a cringy feeling about my entire existence. So thankfully, I never ever, walked to it on that path. And now it's been more than a decade of just doing what I do. And I cannot tell you how strong I feel within, because I feel I've traveled through some tough paths, and I feel genuinely blessed and very strong for just believing and having the courage to keep speaking my truth and keep doing it the way I wanted to do. And a lot of credit goes to all of you guys who listen to my podcast, or who reach out and give me feedback and, write reviews on these kind of things like podcasts, because somewhere it fuels the fire in me, somewhere it fuels the truth in me. And I would have never talked about a spiritual altar a few years ago, because I used to see that no one is interested in putting the work. But now, as I said, I'm seeing the people who are genuinely interested in putting the work out there. So this episode is dedicated to all the curious seekers who are willing to dive deeper, who are ready to put some solid work in their spiritual path. Okay, so first thing to understand is what really is a spiritual altar. So, I don't want to give you a formal definition. I want to put it in simple words as I understand it. So for me, spiritual altar is basically the home of divine, the home of these unknown and known energies around you. And you give them a certain home within your, physical home. Because see, what the thing is, when we meditate with no structure, no intention, no game plan, you're basically putting your time and energy, but it's not going anywhere. Spirituality is a very fascinating science. Tantra is a very fascinating science. In Tantra, we have so many amazing techniques and strategies where you can scientifically cultivate a certain kind of energy. And those energies start to connect you with higher dimensions. And then nothing remains the same. But I got to tell you, you must do these things with guidance of an expert. What I'm going to share with you is something you can do on your own. But if you plan to dive deeper beyond that, do not do these things on your own, because they will have consequences, because you're really playing with higher, mystic energies out there. But on a simple level, you really could set up an altar, and it will be a game changer for your meditation practice. So, first basic question that I want to answer right now is how to set up an altar. And then we can move on to the deeper questions. Why do you need it? How to maintain it? And why do you need it if meditation is all about going within? Why are we setting up a certain physical space? Okay. But the first question is how to set it up. So first, the point you need to understand, what exactly are you planning to put in your altar? You could put your meditation bead. You could put your deities if you follow a certain deity such as Ganesha, a goddess, or even Jesus, Mother Mary. Whatever you believe in, whatever is your calling, you place that. A lot of people place their intentions in the altar. I happened to see altars of two of my beautiful friends, Sahara Rose and Sarah Stewart. And if you follow me on Instagram, there's a good chance you know both of them. They are really my extended family. And their altar has some really beautiful things, and it reflects their personality. It reflects who they really are. So one of the things you can do is place the things that are really part of your intention. You could place a mini vision board there. You could place your daily crystals that you use, meditation bead that you use. If you are into a deity work, you could place the deity there. It really depends what are you working with, and that could be part of that altar, okay? I even know some people who place their business card there because, they're working on their passion project. Some people even place a check, a bank check, because it symbolizes abundance for them. Or sometimes people write a certain amount. Like if you hear the story of Jim Carrey, I know he wrote some $1 million check to himself because he wanted that to be a constant reminder and create a certain energy vibration out there. So if you are into that kind of work, you could place that bank check in your altar as well. Okay. So where do you put it? You could either have a nice little table, or you could also get some inspirations from Pinterest, Amazon, or eBay, or Etsy.com, because I think all these websites have really interesting ideas. And, you'll find a lot of interesting ideas from Japanese traditions, Indian traditions, because, a lot of these cultures have, altar in every home, every office. They don't operate without a certain spiritual place. They need that space, that invitation for divine. So these cultures can give you a lot of inspiration. So definitely look out for, these ideas. Or you could even, I think, look up hashtag spiritual altar or just altar on Instagram. Maybe you'll find some interesting inspirations. Okay. So that's one step. And second thing is, when you maintain it, when you set it up, you got to maintain the energy there. Okay. How do you maintain the energy? And where do you keep it in the house also? So you should keep it where it's not too casual energy. If some of you might be staying, in a one-room apartment, right? Or a studio. If you have no space and there's no option but to keep the altar in your bedroom, then keep it, okay? But make sure the altar is covered or it's not facing your bed. You got to keep the energy separate, because these altars are highly sacred, and you got to put them in a place where it's clean, sacred, and nice energy. Okay. For example, in LA, I keep my altar in the lobby because I'm in an apartment here. But when I was in New York, that was a home. So I had an entire room dedicated to my altar. And I keep thinking about going for a bigger apartment only because I want to have an entire room for my altar. And if you can have that, yeah, go for it. There's nothing like it. Okay. But if you can't afford it, if that's not an option, you don't have to. You could start something really simple. Maybe keep a small altar in your lobby. That's always a good place, because the lobby is a place where you sit, you eat, and there's conversations happening. But the bedroom is a place where, we are just, lazy. We do all kind of things there. So it's the most casual place. So comparatively, your living room might be a much better option. Not lobby, living room. That might be a much, much better option. Okay, so that's the setting up, that's the placement of the altar. To maintain the energy, I would highly recommend lighting a candle every day. and putting fresh flowers at least once a week. At least once a week. Because see, the thing is, the altar is the sacred home of these powerful energies around you. That could be the energy of your ancestors. That could be the energy of the deities that you meditate on. Or that could be the angels, the guides around you. So you don't even know what kind of energy your altar is inviting in. And you got to keep that in mind. So how do you thank these energies? How do you offer your strength to these energies? So all it takes is very simple, thing that you light a candle every time you meditate. And if you're home, keep the candle on. I would say you could even put a sage, incense, or something in the altar, okay? That's one option. Putting fresh flowers is highly recommended all the time. And now, moving on to the most important question. Why do you need it? And, I get to work with, I feel very lucky that I get to work with the most brilliant minds, in the world. And these people have been and still are so successful in their field. So when they hear something about altar, their mind starts to question, is it a religion? Why am I depending on a certain physical form if the meditation is all about going beyond physical? And I love these questions because I feel I'd rather have, the seekers and students and clients who challenge my teachings rather than blindly accepting it. So I respect these questions. I'm never ever, even if it challenges my comfort zone, I always appreciate it. But this is a question that doesn't challenge my comfort zone because, I went through the same questions. Why am I going for an altar if what I'm going for is really a deeper awareness within? So here's the answer, okay? When we start to meditate, so many of you are meditating to manifest a certain intention or to relax or working with higher dimensions out there. So when you're working with so many dimensions, when you're working with so much energy around you, it needs a certain respectful, structured space. You can't be all over the place with these energies. So right now I'm recording this podcast and I have a separate table with the mic installed on it. That's where I sit and do it. I don't, carry the mic in my bathroom or in my kitchen. And, when we cook in the kitchen, we don't cook in the bedroom because that's the place for cooking. When you work in office. You don't work in your bed, or at least not all the time. Because there is a certain place for certain things and we got to respect that flow. So when it comes to meditation, and the word meditation is also so misused, abused, and it has become such a generic word. So you got to also understand when I mention the word meditation, I'm really talking about sadhana, which means the disciplined spiritual practice, which is, very evolved and intense form of meditation. So when you are working on that level of meditation, you need to have a certain dedicated space for it. You need to have a certain space to honor those energies, to have a certain space for these energies to come and cultivate themselves. Because when you are sitting there and consistently meditating in that space, you are building a very powerful energy reservoir. And there will be a time, I guarantee you, when you simply step into that space, you automatically are pulled into that next level of cosmic consciousness. So that happens when we have an entire room dedicated for the altar. But even if you have a space in your living room which is just untouched and just dedicated for this, that's absolutely okay. And you'll feel that when you're sitting in that space, you'll get the pull. You'll automatically be recharged. It's like, you could be working out in your living room or in your building gym where hardly any people show up. But if you join a gym, where so many people are working hard and there's a certain vibe happening there, obviously your motivation, your strength increases. And that's one of the reasons a lot of people actually join the gym, because they, feel motivated. So your altar is your spiritual gymnasium. It's your spiritual office where you have all the tools, all the energy happening, and you simply step in and be available to those energies. That's why we maintain the altar. We keep it clean. We keep things, really clean and hygienic there. And secondly, The altar serves as a bridge, as a window to higher consciousness. Because if I'm working with something as intense as, Goddess Kali or Shiva, these energies are so intense, so powerful that if I'm randomly meditating anywhere, either I'll mess up my energy or I'll pretty much have no growth happening within because I'm casually sitting around meditating here and there. Okay? But when you start to meditate with a certain structure in a certain dedicated place, these energies obviously become a little more receptive toward your energy because you are putting effort on one place constantly. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that if you meditate anywhere else or in nature, you're not going anywhere. You are definitely going, places if you are meditating in nature or even in the groups outside of your home. But when you are home, you got to have a certain honoring space for these kind of higher energies. And this is obviously for those who are really into building that dedicated path. Okay. And there comes a time when these altars become your, bridge, the spiritual bridge, the spiritual gymnasium, and it's the energy reservoir. And one, interesting thing that I've seen with these altars is it motivates people. I've had clients who would skip meditation and they'll be on and off with it. But after they got into setting up the altar, they, feel the motivation and they feel almost like guilty of not sitting because they're like, oh, it's been 3 days, I haven't been there. So it automatically gave them a certain routine, a certain discipline, which I think is very, very important, especially in the path of spirituality. So that's my hope with you as well, that it gives you discipline, motivation, but above all, my hope is it really starts to cultivate a powerful energy within you. So if you're interested, take the time to build an altar and share it on your Insta story and tag me so that I can give you some feedback. Okay, that's all for today. And talk to you very soon. Thank you. I hope this podcast may travel through the untapped universe of your darkness, light, courage, passion, and so much more. Please do subscribe and be ready to break your norms. I am so excited and very honored to be part of your sacred journey through this podcast.